Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 true stories about people who opened attics that were never meant to be found, and what they discovered should have stayed hidden forever. I was 25 when this happened. It feels important to mention that up front because at 25, you're supposed to be smart enough to listen to your gut. I wasn't. Back then, I'd just moved into this rental house in a small rural town in New York. I'd been laid off during the pandemic and was trying to regroup, get out of the city for a while, and save money. The house was cheap, like suspiciously cheap, but I didn't care. I needed quiet. The landlord was this older guy named Mr. Fennell, polite, reserved. When he gave me the keys, he only had one rule: just don't open the attic, ever. He said it casually, like he was talking about a faulty cabinet or a broken outlet. I laughed, thought he was joking. But he wasn't smiling. For the first few weeks, everything was fine. The house was dated, like 70s wood paneling, weird floral wallpaper, but nothing I couldn't live with. I worked remotely during the day, cooked dinner at night, and watched old horror movies with a glass of wine before bed. I know, ironic. There were 2 bedrooms, a small basement, and that attic door, one of those square panels in the hallway ceiling with a string hanging down, the kind you'd need a step ladder to reach. It was directly above the guest room, which I didn't use. Every so often, I'd catch myself looking up at it. That dumb little piece of plywood, it didn't even creak or sag. It was just still. About a month in, I started hearing things. Soft thumps above me, like something small dropping onto the attic floor. I told myself it was raccoons, squirrels, whatever. It was an old house. Old houses make noise. But one night, around 3 a.m., I woke up to what I swear was dragging. Not like footsteps, not like scratches. Dragging, slow and steady, across the attic floor. Directly above my room. I laid there, frozen, listening. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear over it. I eventually drifted back to sleep, told myself it was my imagination. The next morning I bought one of those cheap home security cameras and mounted it in the hallway facing the attic. I didn't really expect to catch anything. It just made me feel better. But that night I kept my laptop open and watched the feed like a hawk. Nothing. Just a blank hallway and a quiet house. Until around 2:40 a.m. That's when I saw the attic string move, not violently, just a small twitch, like something bumped it from the other side. I stared at the screen, not even breathing. A few seconds passed. Then nothing. No sound. No more movement. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I played back the footage. Same thing. The string twitched, once, and then stillness. I called the landlord, asked him again what was up there. He got quiet, then said, "I told you not to open it. Don't call me again unless it's an emergency," and hung up. That night, I sat in the hallway for hours with a baseball bat across my lap. I don't know what I was expecting, but nothing happened. Just silence and that dead air that feels heavier than it should be. By the 4th night, I was losing it. I hadn't slept. I was jumpy. I kept checking the camera every hour. The string hadn't moved again, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was up there, watching, waiting. I decided to open the attic. I know what you're thinking, but curiosity does something to your brain. It makes you irrational, reckless. I didn't have a ladder, so I stacked a chair on top of a coffee table and reached up with a broom handle, popped the panel free. A waft of hot, stale air hit me like a punch. It smelled like insulation and dust and something else, something faintly sweet and rotten. I stood there, just staring up into the black. Then I climbed up. It wasn't a big attic, just beams, insulation, and darkness. I had a flashlight clamped between my teeth, and the beam caught something shiny in the far corner. I crawled toward it. It was a camera, an old one, wired. The lens pointed directly at the attic door. I looked around and saw wires, old, yellowing cables, running through the beams, disappearing into the walls. I followed them to a small box tucked behind the vent duct, a VCR with a tape inside. I brought it down and plugged it into the dusty TV in the guest room. The tape played static for a few seconds. Then video, grainy, black and white. It was the hallway, my hallway, same angle as my camera, but this feed was older, like early 2000s old. The date on the screen blinked, March 18th, 2004. A woman appeared, mid-30s, dressed in pajamas. She was standing under the attic, staring up. Then the string started to lower on its own, and the panel opened. Something dropped out. I don't know what it was. The video was too grainy, but she screamed, and then the screen went black. I ejected the tape, packed my bags, and left that night. I didn't even tell the landlord. I just locked the door and drove until the sun came up. I never looked back. The police weren't much help. I filed a report anonymously, sent them the tape, but never heard back. I checked the local papers for months, nothing. The house is still listed online. Same photos, same cheap price, same attic. To this day, I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't opened it. Or worse, if I'd waited long enough for it to open on its own. Some doors are never meant to be opened, but curiosity doesn't care about warnings, does it? What's even worse than finding something in the attic is knowing it's still watching. But not all horror hides above you. Sometimes it shows up right on camera. I used to work nights as a janitor at this small community college about 40 minutes from where I lived. It wasn't glamorous, obviously, but it paid better than you'd think, and the hours worked for me. I liked the quiet, too. Everyone was gone by the time I got there. Just empty halls, vending machine hums, and the occasional raccoon knocking over a trash can outside. That kind of peace becomes addictive when you get used to it. The building I cleaned was mostly classrooms. Math, English, a few empty offices. It was the science wing that always felt weird to me. Not haunted or anything, just sterile, cold, even in the summer. Something about the tile floors and the way the lights flickered when you first turned them on, but I never had a reason to be scared. At least, not at first. I usually did my rounds in the same order every night, start on the first floor, wipe down surfaces, clean the bathrooms, then head upstairs. Second floor was quieter, fewer classrooms, more storage rooms and locked faculty offices. The elevator didn't work half the time, so I mostly used the stairs. One Thursday night, maybe around 2 a.m., I was finishing up the second floor when I saw a light on at the far end of the hallway. I figured one of the professors had left it on, which happens sometimes. I walked down with my cart, thinking I'd just switch it off. As I got closer, I saw it wasn't just a light, it was one of the overhead projectors. It was playing something. The screen was lit up with this blurry image, like an old slide or maybe a paused video. There was no sound, just a faint buzzing. I stepped inside, thinking maybe some adjunct forgot to power it down. The room was cold, way colder than the hallway had been. I remember rubbing my arms as I walked over to the projector. The screen was frozen on a still image of a hallway. Our hallway. The one just outside the room, only it looked off. The lighting was darker, the colors almost grayed out. I checked the source. It wasn't connected to a laptop or anything. Just looping from some internal storage, I guess. I shut it off. The room went dark, and I moved on. The next night, same thing. Same room, same projector, same image. The hallway. Except this time, there was someone in the frame. A man, just barely visible near the back exit. His head was down and his arms looked like they were dangling straight at his sides. I stood there staring at it, waiting for something to happen, but the screen was frozen. No motion. I took a picture of it on my phone just to prove I wasn't losing it, then turned off the projector again. I didn't tell anyone. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to sound crazy, or maybe some part of me didn't want to hear someone else say they'd seen it too. The third night was when things changed. This time, the projector wasn't just playing the hallway, it was live. You could see the trash can I had just emptied and the janitor cart parked next to it. It was a live feed of the hallway right outside. Only I wasn't in the frame. I walked back into the hallway, looked at the same trash can, same spot, then back into the room, and there I was, on screen, standing in the hallway like a security camera feed. Only I wasn't moving. I was just standing there, perfectly still, my arms at my sides, head down, exactly like the figure from the night before. I stared at it. I looked back at the hallway. It was empty. I looked again at the screen. Still me, still frozen. I don't know what came over me, but I ran. I left my cart, my supplies, everything. I didn't even clock out. Just booked it down the stairs and out the side door. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. I sat in my kitchen with every light on, replaying it over and over, telling myself it was a glitch, a prank, a looped feed. But I couldn't explain how I'd seen myself like that when I hadn't been standing that way. I wasn't still. I had been moving. I went back the next night because I needed the money. That's the only reason. I brought my phone, extra flashlight, even debated bringing something to defend myself with, though I wasn't sure from what. I avoided that room at first, did everything else I could before even walking down that wing. But when I passed it, the door was open, and the lights were on. Inside, the projector was on again. This time it was showing something else entirely. Not the hallway, not the school. It was my kitchen, my actual kitchen. The same one I had sat in the night before, staring at the walls. Same coffee mug still sitting on the counter. Same hoodie slung over the back of the chair. And there was someone standing at the window. I don't know how I kept my hands from shaking, but I took a video. Then I unplugged the projector completely and left it like that. Didn't even put it back on the shelf. I finished my shift in silence, refusing to go back down that hallway. I left before dawn and drove home shaking the whole way. When I got home, everything was normal. Kitchen looked exactly the same. No one at the window, no signs of forced entry, but I couldn't shake that image. I showed my boss the video the next day. He didn't say much, just kind of frowned, then said he'd have it take a look. I never got a follow-up. They moved me to a different building the following week. Said they needed me to help cover for someone out on medical leave. I never stepped back into that wing again. The video's still on my phone. I don't watch it anymore, but I keep it, like proof, I guess, in case anyone ever says I imagined the whole thing. But what scares me the most isn't what I saw. It's what I didn't see. Because on the last frame of that video, right before the feed cuts to black, the figure at the window turns. And it's wearing my uniform. Sometimes, the scariest thing isn't what's hiding in the shadows. It's seeing your own reflection do something you never did. Because once you've been seen, once you're copied, there's no telling what's watching now. But not every monster lives behind glass. Some drive up at 2:30 a.m. and wait for the lights to go out. This happened when I was 19. I'd just started working at this small 24-hour gas station off Route 9, somewhere between Syracuse and nowhere. It wasn't supposed to be permanent, just something to make money while I figured things out. My shifts were mostly overnights, midnight to 8 a.m. Alone. The station wasn't much. 2 pumps out front, flickering neon sign, and a convenience store about the size of a living room. Just me, a register, and a shelf of expired beef jerky. Sometimes truckers would stop in, sometimes a local looking for cigarettes. But most nights, dead quiet. The first weird thing that happened wasn't even scary, just strange. It was about 2:30 in the morning, dead cold January, when a guy pulled up in this beat-up white Buick. He didn't get gas, just came inside, bought a Gatorade, and left. Except when he walked out, he didn't get back in the car. He just stood next to it for like 5 minutes. I watched him through the window, waiting for him to do something, but he didn't move. Just stood with his back to me, facing the woods across the road. After a while, I tapped on the glass. He didn't even flinch. I grabbed the phone to call someone, no idea who, maybe my manager or the cops, but just as I did, he got in the car and drove off. Slow, like he wasn't in a hurry at all. The next night he came back. Same car, same time, same routine. Gatorade, cash, quiet, leaves. Then stands outside, again, same exact position. Like he was waiting for something out in the trees. This time, I opened the door a crack and called out, "You good out there?" Nothing. He didn't even turn around. Just kept standing there, back straight, arms at his sides. Eventually, he walked around to the driver's side and got in, but instead of pulling away, he turned the car off. Headlights stayed on. Engine silent. I locked the door. That became a pattern. Every night around 2:30, he'd show up. Buy the same drink. Leave. Stand out by the woods. No talking. No expression. Then disappear. I told my boss. He shrugged and said maybe the guy was on something. "Just keep the door locked," he told me, real helpful. Night 6 was different. He showed up later, closer to 3 a.m., but this time he didn't park. Just idled at the edge of the lot, headlights aimed right at the building. I couldn't see inside the car because of the glare, but it just sat there, humming. I waited. 2 minutes passed, then 5, then 10. Finally, the engine cut off. The headlight stayed on, then I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. It wasn't coming from the front door. It was from the glass wall beside the coffee machine. I turned slowly. He was standing there, inches from the window. His face was too close to the glass, like he was trying to see inside, but not really. His eyes were shut, his hand lifted again and tapped 3 times, slow, deliberate, with just 2 fingers. I couldn't breathe. I stayed perfectly still behind the counter. I don't even think I blinked. He tapped again, then his eyes opened, and he smiled. Not wide, not crazy, just a small, slow smile. Then he turned around and walked back to his car, got in, and left. That was the first time I seriously considered quitting. But I didn't, not yet. I called the local sheriff the next day, gave them the plate number, they ran it. Came back to a guy named Daniel K. Lives 1 town over, no warrants, no priors, no known mental health stuff. I asked if I should file a report. The deputy just said, "Hasn't broken any laws yet." The word "yet" really stuck with me. 2 nights later, it was snowing, heavy flakes, near whiteout. The roads were dead. I figured maybe the guy wouldn't show up in the storm, but at exactly 2:32 a.m., the power went out. Not the whole grid, just the store. Everything went dark. No hum from the lights, no buzz from the cooler, just pitch black and the sound of the wind hitting the glass. I grabbed my flashlight from under the counter and flicked it on. That's when I realized my phone was missing. I'd had it charging behind the register all night. Now it was gone. Then I heard the door unlock. You have to understand, I'd locked it at midnight. I always did. I even double-checked it earlier. There's no reason it should have been open. I crept around the counter, heart thudding. I wanted to run, but I couldn't leave the building. Snow was piling up and I didn't have my keys. I pointed the flashlight at the door. It was cracked open an inch, just enough to let the cold in. I pulled it shut and locked it again. Then I turned, and for just a second, I saw a shadow move in the back of the store. It wasn't a trick of the light. It was someone moving. I ducked low and crawled along the cooler line until I reached the small door to the back stockroom. I slipped inside, locked it, and crouched behind a stack of paper towel boxes. It was dead quiet for almost 5 minutes. Then, footsteps. Slow. Heavy. They weren't trying to be quiet. They stopped right outside the stockroom door. The handle jiggled once. Then nothing. I sat there, shaking, flashlight off, waiting for the door to burst open. It didn't. Eventually, I heard the front door chime, the same ding it makes when someone leaves. I waited another full 10 minutes before I even dared to open the stockroom door. The store was empty. The power was back on. My phone was on the counter, still plugged in. I checked the security footage. It had cut out. Right at 2:32 a.m. came back online at 3:09. Nothing in between. I quit the next day, didn't give notice. Just left my key on the manager's desk. A few weeks later, I got a text from one of the other night guys. Just one sentence. "He came back asking for you." To this day, I don't know what he wanted, why he stood in the snow, why he smiled, why he waited. All I know is, if I hadn't locked that stockroom door, this wouldn't be a story.